Peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, AKA Mr. Just the Facts. What's going on, fam? What's going on? What's going on? Shout outs first and foremost. Well, first, click the like button. Everybody that's on live, anybody that will be catching this video on the replay, make sure you hit that like button, share the video out, support the channel, $ be the power. You could also contribute through our website, usadof.org. You can become a channel member. I believe I got that set up now. Yeah, you can become a member of this channel now. The other channel, we won't be doing live streams from. I haven't ruled out doing any live streams from that channel. Y'all let me know what y'all think of this new logo. I'm toying with some things right now with the 4 F's: family, fidelity, freedom, and force. And yeah, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to this channel if you are not subscribed, so that you could become a part of the Notification Nation and receive notifications every time Be the Power drops its dynamic content. So today we are going to be doing a recap on Juneteenth. Shout out to BTP Riri. I see you. BTP Shanna is on deck. Peace, Sister Chanetta Davis. Vince Jefferson is plugged in as usual. We got Brother Ali on deck. And we about to get it in. We're going to talk about, Juneteenth. We're going to give a recap. And we are even going to recap some of the things that we spoke about in the Twitter space yesterday. We had a powerful Twitter space. What's going on, Fair? This brother LD Ward is in the building. We are taking our culture back. We are definitely taking our culture back, and it was great to see, right? And I want to share something real quick, because Google and these companies are starting to get it right. So let me share this. Now, I want you all, let me see if you could see this. So if you Google the word Juneteenth, usually we see them same colors. And all of these banners to the right are new. They're newer banners. And it seems as if they were pushed to the forefront of images. But look at what Google did. Y'all pay attention to this. It's not going to show while it's live. But anyway, what Google did was they had there we go. I said, okay. They see, they're getting the colors right. We see a little smattering of red, black, and green and those Caribbean colors. But this is a testament, fam. This is a testament to our advocacy as freedmen reparationists over the past several years, and the reparations movement in general, but particularly us who represent the freedmen. And this is important, right? Because let me come out of this for a minute, and I want to go to General Granger's declaration when he rode into Texas, in Galveston, Texas, on June 19, 1865. I want to read that real quick. Peace. What's going on, Brother Dre? I see you in the building. Brother Derek Blackseed, the child of life, the DMV Freedman, is on deck. Brother Dre said, great Twitter space y'all had yesterday. Man, yeah, that Twitter space was fire. I am going to download that and put that up here today, because that was a powerful conversation, man. We really got into our freedman culture, and it was the music part of it that was the deepest to me, the deepest part of the conversation. And the equally deep part of the conversation is when this brother named Booby came on, and he was questioning our blackness, if you will, and so far as how we view blackness, and if that was disconnected from black culture in some type of way. And we had to school a brother up, but Ali's answer was I just want to extract that part and make a standalone video out of it. But it was Dre said the music goes deep into our American freedmen roots. And one of the things that I did on that thread, the Twitter space thread, is I was putting links to songs that I grew up with in New York. Peace, Sister April, that I grew up with in New York. That me and Ali, being from New York, we were able to speak on certain songs that helped build that cultural sound that is hip hop, even with the house music and the house music sounding songs. Like what's the name of the group? Ali, the Sisters. Let No Man Tear Us Under. Geesh, I forget their names that fast. I can't think of it. Ali probably. Oh, Ali just dropped off. Okay, but anyway, we we were able to show that a lot of the club songs that we came up on in New York, and First Choice. Thank you, Sister Riri. Let No Man Tear Us. It was a bunch of them. Womack and Womack, Baby, I'm Scared of You. I mean, we got deep. We really, really got deep yesterday, and that made for a great, great discussion. So I want to show Granger's declaration to the freedmen in Texas. I want to read that. This is General Orders number 3, Galveston, Texas, June 19, 1865. It says, the people are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. It's telling the former slave masters, like, now y'all got to pay them. The freedmen are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts, and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. So, this Granger's orders did not comport with what was being generally understood in the Freedmen's Bureau's acts. All right, we got Josh and Ali on right now. Excellent, excellent. What's going on? Iron for Zeke, Kelly Matthews, DMV Freedmen, them DC Freedmen are in the building. Shout out to the DC Freedmen, the DMV Freedmen. My sister Kelly and Sister Roz were featured in the Washington Post. We're going to get to some of these victories too. Some victories that happened, and that was one of them. So I pointed this out, bros, because I wanted people to see that term freedman. I wanted them to know that this isn't some antiquated term. This is a condition. This is a status that still holds until this day. And we're reminded of it all the time through the actions that what's called the dominant society, or the majority, as they're called, white people, white supremacy, and how they deal with us on a daily basis with the quote unquote badges and incidents of slavery. So, Ali, if you wanted to touch on this real quick. Josh said his sound wasn't working. What's going on?
What's that? My bad. You want to speak on these general orders right here?
Oh yeah. Just the freedmen part of it. We ain't got to give no super breakdown on it. I just want people to
Yeah.
understand that, you know, this is a Freedman thing. We have witnessed that Juneteenth. Let me frame it like this: that Juneteenth, this celebration that we're looking at, is a celebration of the freedmen. For those that want to cling on to names like slaves or slavery, with freedom, we stopped being those things. With freedom, we stopped being slaves. With freedom, the institution of slavery was no more. So this whole thing is a freedman celebration.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of it, as you already know, is based on people's ideologies, people's personal positions about other people, and stuff like that. That's what it really comes down to. And it's like um, somebody else had mentioned talking about banging, people be banging and stuff like that. And a lot of that is true. It's a big part of what's going on. People are banging, like set banging. This is my set. I'm representing this set, and I'm banging on your set. But the truth of the matter is, regardless of, again, how you feel about any of us personally, um, as you can see with General Order Number 3, as read by Granger, as you can see with Special Field Order Number 15, as read by Sherman, issued by Sherman, that these particular things, as well as the Freedmen's Bureau Act and the redistribution of land as outlined in Section 4 of the original Freedmen's Bureau Act, these things were specific to the freed people. It's really not about race. And just to really kind of touch to connect it to what Greg Carr has been doing lately since that DC hearing and what he's trying to do on Twitter, he wants everything to be based on racial terminology. But what we see is that even from the time period of the 1860s, that these particular pieces of legislation, the Emancipation Proclamation doesn't mention race. The 14th Amendment doesn't mention race. The 15th Amendment doesn't mention race. The 13th Amendment doesn't mention race. The 1866 Civil Rights Act, I believe, mentions white people, but it doesn't necessarily mention the black race or anything like that. So the point is that in terms of the remedy that was trying to be administered in with all of this stuff, they're trying to remedy the conditions of the people. And this is something I was saying in Buffalo space the last time I was in there, and Stephen Hunter was in there. Now, Stephen Hunter is also an attorney. See, I think if we are able to have these conversations directly with these people, and they can talk to us as opposed to all of these other people on Twitter who are not necessarily grounded or rooted in this thing the way that we are, what's going to wind up happening is they're going to have to submit to the fact that, these guys have a superior position. I may not agree with it. But I cannot say that these dudes is no fools. I cannot say that they fools, because that's what we wind up having with Stephen. He's like, I got to admit, you guys know your shit. It's just, I just don't agree with your positions on certain your political positions, but I got to admit, you guys know your shit. And you know what I'm saying?
Let me say real quick, he wants to disagree. That's the only problem that I have with it, right? Is the wanting to disagree. Nobody is going to just destroy my position and then I'm going to hold on to that position. That's just not going to happen. The only way that I hold on to that position is if I want to disagree. And if I want to disagree, then I am being dishonest with myself. And if I'm being dishonest with myself, then I don't have no problem with being dishonest with everybody else. And I think that's what sets us apart, bro.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and brother Ali, I wanted to just talk about. I hope my background uh, is not too crazy. I just tried to go downstairs, so you know. But anyways, brother Ali, I just wanted to piggyback on what you were talking about. Like when it comes to all the legislation you talked about, and we talked about the Constitution. We have to understand that they crafted this thing in a specific way for a specific reason. It's a reason why certain language appears and certain language doesn't appear. So it can leave certain things are not explicitly stated, so that it could be some level of deniability, some level of ambiguity, and that would leave things to be up to interpretation of ultimately another body or Supreme Court, or even for states to interpret, and make their own law. So and therefore, certain it will give states wiggle room to do things the way they wanted to do. So in the same way, when we want to craft things, we have to do the same thing. Like, I think certain people look at it as we're bowing out, or you know we're taking a L because we're not coming back and saying we want black this, we want freedmen that, we want black, like you. Oh, I ain't gonna say freedmen. I'm not gonna put that in the same sentence, but we want it to say it has to be specific to black folks. This, it has to be black this, black this. Understanding, like, that is an inferior position. That's the same reason why a lot of people, when they try to craft, and not just the old legislation, the new legislation today that serves the same purpose of putting us in denigrated statuses to be at our detriment. They craft it for us. They craft it in a certain way to where if it's challenged, it won't be struck down, and it can survive. So if we want
Absolutely.
our policy to survive and not be struck down, why would we want to do something different? Why would we want to commit suicide? Why would we want to commit legislative suicide by putting, essentially what is a cyanide pill in the legislation we want passed? Soon as somebody challenges, it's like they pull the tooth off, and bite it, and now our mouths start foaming and we die because we want to
Right.
put black, and we want to make a bill race-based. Race-based is just the cyanide tooth. You pull out, you bite on it, and your mouth start foaming, and that's a wrap for you.
Yes.
Why would we
And
want to do that? Go
now,
ahead.
now, peep this, right? Let me just read what he said in response to Yvette Carnell, because he's apparently going back and forth with Yvette Carnell on Twitter. He says, I believe in intellectual warfare. It's why I went to law school. Narrowing of race-based remedies by the courts was political. It has no permanent legal underpinnings. Now, the problem with that is all legislation comes by way of political action. The laws are the results of political action. So everything is political in nature. Even law is political in nature. So that in and of itself is saying nothing. The fact of the matter is, when you look at the debates of Congress, the proceedings and debates of Congress leading up to the passage of these pieces of legislation, that's where you find out what was really going on. And that is where you make the distinction between something being race-based or race-conscious. See, my thing is, what Ketanji Brown Jackson was stating was a little bit off, in my opinion, from my perspective.
We debated that at first, if you remember.
Yeah.
I was like, I think she off, bro.
No, well, I'm saying like this.
Mm-hmm.
She's off in the sense that she's trying to make the claim that the 14th Amendment was based on race. It's not based on race. What it is the legislators were conscious of the consequences of race and the problems that race had created. But because of the problems created by race and the conditions created by race, or the implementation of racial classifications, those conditions now needed to be remedied. And so what they did was attempt to remedy the conditions or the status of the people in society. This is what I keep saying, and I said this to Stephen. It's always about the status or the condition of the people that is at issue. And that's what they're trying to remedy. So in other words, the problems of the Ku Klux Klan, right? And what they were doing to create certain atmospheres and conditions in society. They enacted the Ku Klux Klan Act to be able to remedy that problem. They didn't do it based on whiteness. They didn't do it based on Ku Klux Klanness. They called it the Ku Klux Klan Act, but they did it to remedy the problems that the Ku Klux Klan were creating. You see what I'm saying? I think what people keep doing is looking at it from a surface perspective, as opposed to going beneath it to look at it and see, look, they're trying to fix a problem. The laws of a country are put in place to address some problem. That's the point. That's the point. That's why I keep saying it's about condition and status. It's not about the race of the people.
That's right. And you know, we've been harping on that, and I think eventually everything that we've been saying, we at BTP, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, we are truly the stone that the builders rejected, and we shall become the cornerstone of the nation. And that is a fact, because everybody was trying to, and still are trying to, reject what we're saying, but it's inescapable. How can you claim to be for our families, our lineages, and read past Freedmen and Granger's order, or read past Freedmen and anything that was established specifically for our groups, and we wonder why we remained in this second class position in this country? And that's because they hit us with a cudgel, if you will, that gave us amnesia. That cudgel was the seditionists were allowed to win. They lost the physical war, but they were allowed to win the mental war. And so we became, in the eyes of law, or the law, reduced back to the state of a slave, not physically, but mentally. And mentally by the names that we were given during those times: Black, Negro, and colored. These are slave labels that were given to our people specifically. Even if they weren't initially created as slave labels in the United States, and we got some research on that, especially on the Negro being the slave part that's coming soon. But that's what it was, that these titles meant that you were a slave, point blank, period. And, you know, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into some of that a little bit later. I want to, bros, real quick, I want to show, because we're also doing a recap. And I know that the recap includes that conversation, because we had a lot of that conversation this weekend. But I just want to show some of what took place. And out of everything that I saw, this was the most powerful. It was the Durham County, North Carolina. I believe this is their state building. Let me see. I'm going to read it. A reminder to stop by the Durham, it's their courthouse, county courthouse, through the Juneteenth holiday to view the official Juneteenth flag soaring above. The flag's colors and symbols are representative of freedom and the end of slavery. It was raised on June 5th in a historic ceremony featuring Buffalo Soldier reenactors reading from the Emancipation Proclamation, 13th Amendment, and General Order Number 3. That's Granger's order. So they're reading the word freedmen to the public right as we are resurrecting this term over the past 3 years, family. Right as Sister Nikki Lucas, New York State Assembly person out of Brooklyn, in her rebuke to the reparations legislation that they're trying to pass in New York City, she's citing the American freedmen. I might play that a little bit later too. I'm not sure. Just the first minute of it, just so people could know. And there was so much going on And on, man, I was hoping not to go back to the beginning of it, my pay, but there was so much going on, man. I was making sure to share a lot of stuff on my Twitter wall. That's Jim Crow Joe Biden. There were certain things that I wanted to get to. This guy, Daryl Scott, not the Daryl Scott me and Ali been debating with on Facebook for the past couple of years. This is a right-wing guy. Juneteenth did something, man. The black Republicans online was showing out. They was giving the white racist Republicans that business yesterday, man. I mean, they was really, really giving them that business. And this was in response to the racist Charlie Kirk's post about Juneteenth. And Daryl Scott posted, right? He said a whole lot of, let me read this caption. A whole lot of conservatives had their shorts in a bunch and a lot of emotional comments until I posted this. Shaking my head, now it's crickets. So it shows where President Trump, the Fox News headline, President Trump to push for Juneteenth to become national holiday. And several people on the thread and all over Twitter were posting up similar, similar posts. And we was going there. We was smoking on them panty packs, them Pan Africans. They was getting that work, man. They was trying to attack Juneteenth and attack the Juneteenth flag. And this was something that I posted up. Y'all know we've shared this before. I said we smoking on panty packs today because they was telling us to stop basically trying to have faith in the government, that they're going to do anything for us and yada, yada, yada. So my caption was, how many African nations can you all point out that receives annual aid from the same U.S. government these panties are telling us not to have faith in? And when you look at this chart, man, you could point them all out. Ethiopia, one of the largest donees of United States of America, of America's aid. Sudan, Uganda, Tanzania, Somalia, Mozambique. These Pan-Africans are so out of touch. They are as out of touch as the white races. And that's just, it is what it is. This is Ben Haith, the founder of, the creator of the Juneteenth flags. People running around talking about a white woman helped him. No, she made a suggestion in 2020. That was it. He designed the flag. All she did was make a suggestion. And, this is Sister Kelly. Nevada Freedmen is in the building cooking some panty that called the African Queen. This is one of the black Republican brothers. I felt so good yesterday watching our people just go all in, and even watching, because, me and brothers like this, we had our run-ins on Twitter Spaces before. Y'all know me. We do the cooking over here. We don't get cooked over here,
That's important, man. And just
right.
Just to make a little point, is what I said to Stephen, right? Mm-hmm. Just going back to the Stephen Hunter thing. He was talking about us engaging in conversations with Republicans, and I'm like, hell yeah. Yeah. So because I don't really care about political parties. It's not about somebody's political affiliation. It's about whether or not they identify with me and I can identify with them and our plight. Do we have the same plight? Do we have the same cultural continuity coming through the institution of chattel slavery in this country and the plight of the American freedmen? If that's your family's plight, if that's your family's history, we should be able to have a conversation with each other no matter where we are or what we are claiming our political affiliations are, right? Because we're trying to have some kind of a meeting of the minds where we can move together in every front, every sphere of society, and be able to push the things that we need that will help us in our upward mobility in this country. I don't care what you're calling yourself, And so, when we reason with these people from that perspective, man, there's nothing that they can really say except, well, I don't agree. Well, you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree, but it's not a decision for you to make, because I'm my own man, and you can do what you want and limit your abilities to interact with people if you want to, but that's your decision to make. Just like this is my decision or our decision to make, to go ahead and talk to our family, regardless of political affiliation.
That's right. That's right. This is just from the Twitter space we did. And it's important what you're saying, Ali, because to say I disagree without debunking my position means that you would rather take the path of a fool. And we got to call it for what it is. That it's ignorance to disagree just to disagree. And I say that all the time. Two, it's a part of my personal mantra in life that two wise men or wise people would never agree to disagree because truth is one. There can only be one truth. There can be some variation in that truth based on perspective and context. But ultimately, the truth is the truth. And the truth can be shown to be the truth through especially if you have some type of intelligence, as Greg Carr claims that he has, through the rigorous methodology that one learns, and especially the collegiate and university level in this country. So to disagree for the sake of disagreement is ignorance, foolishness, and folly. Point blank, period. So this is from the space.
It's more of a thing of disagreeing for the sake of towing party lines. And see, this is where we part ways. This is my position on it. And this is where we part ways. I'm not towing any party line. That's what, Stephen wants to do, or people like him. They want to do that. And that's their right. If you want to do that, you can do that. But don't try to hold these particular standards over everybody else's head because you've chosen to adopt that as your standard. That's not my standard. You see? Right. So really that's all it is.
That's right. So this post was interesting by Sheila Jackson Lee. She said, my father was the son of immigrants, the youngest son of immigrants. And in growing up, he was a unique artist in that he was a cartoonist. Very rare for an African-American boy in the 30s and the 40s. There's so many problems with this quote, right? This caption, because there's no Jamaican African-American boys in the 30s and the 40s. That's first and foremost. The second part is it shows just how this term African-American can be stretched into having the same reach that the term black has, which is why we are advocating for American freedmen to be our ethnic identifier in this country. So, and I pretty much said that on the thread. And for those that know who I'm talking to, y'all know who I'm talking to. I said, we tried to tell them that African American has been corrupted from its initial intent and meaning. One thing that cannot be corrupted in this country is who an American freedman is, or even the Indian freedman for that matter. The distinction is clear. It is what it is.
Yeah, good luck telling Sheila Jackson Lee, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, good luck arguing with them and the people who support them using that classification. Good luck correcting them and getting them to recant and switch it up. Good luck on it.
That's right. That's right. This was a perfect tweet by my sister, Sonny Johnson. Sonny Johnson is a Republican, a black Republican, black conservative, and she be killing them, man. Sheesh, I was in her space earlier, and she was cooking this white paternalistic Karen that came in and thought she could just tell people what to say and how many F's that they can give. So she says, so begins the day when people who worship the Confederate flag cry about the Juneteenth flag with zero awareness that one represents traitors and the other represents freedom. I mean, that was such a powerful
and patriots. Because how did them people get free? Right. How did them people get free?
That's
Quote by Lincoln. He says, we got that from National Park Services. It says, this is a direct quote, without the military help of the black freedmen, the war against the South could not have been won.
That's right. This right here was crazy.
That's an excellent point.
This real quick. Can y'all hear that?
Ring
Yes.
with the harmonies
This was crazy.
of
Like, these are the
liberty.
faces of the
Let
people
our
that are holding us back.
rejoicing
These are the faces of
rise
the people
high as the
when you see
listening skies.
the
Lift
celebration
every
that happened
voice.
on that CNN covered with the D9. Like, so what they're going to do is take our holiday and they're going to blend it into a whole bunch of LGBTQ stuff, which they've already done. We've seen a post from this group, Human Rights Something. And, you know, it's like, we don't even care. They don't even care. They're like, we don't care. We're going to take black people's stuff and center our fight around that. But the responses to a lot of this stuff is amazing, man. Brother Ali posted the piece, and we made sure that we shared that out where, you know, again, you see Freedmen in that order, man. You see it, Brother Divine speaking about the Sheila Jackson Lee tweet. And this is all it was, man. It was just us, Sister Camilla being interviewed on NBC, Meet the Press. And that's basically it for the recap. This is from our 2021 event. Sister Tamara Johnson, Shirley, BTP's own Ibrahim, Brother Marlon Watson, and we got our brother Ty Harper out there who also represents BTP and the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. So, you know, we out here. And I want to share one more thing, bros, and we could get back into our conversation. And that's the raising of the Juneteenth flag. Like, it just lets us know that this, you know, things are starting to happen, man. Things are starting to happen.
1, 2, 3, raise the flag. Thank you.
That means something,
2,
because we never really had a flag to necessarily raise because we had lost so much in the United States of America. So we now can have that banner of freedom that we can wave right next to our American flag. And that's why I have my new design. Y'all let me know what y'all think about my design right here. I'm working on this. I'm gonna make some tweaks to it, but it essentially represents 4 F's. I'm calling it a symbol of protection. And it's family, fidelity, freedom, and force. You know, like I said, I'm doing some tweaks to it. Any suggestions from the family would be appreciated. It would definitely be appreciated. So bros, man, let's get back into this discussion, because we know that Juneteenth is about the freedmen. And we know that freedom in this country is about the freedmen. And there were several discussions about race. We had the brother Dion from out of California. You know, he tried it with us, and it was good because we had a civil conversation. But they said he went back in another space the next day, talk about race-based legislation. So essentially, Brother Dion agrees with Greg Carr. So ultimately, you are fighting on the side of the Democrats to erase what we are trying to do in our fight for reparations. Go ahead, bro.
And I would say you're fighting on the side of the Republicans and everybody who's an anti-reparationist, because again, that's a quick way to get something struck down and gotten about the paint. You know, it's a quick way to introduce that poison into it and taint the water to where, okay, you just kind of get dismissed. You just kind of get taken off the board. So I don't think people understand, like when you play basketball and you're somebody who can't shoot and you want to keep on shooting threes, what we say is, oh, they with us. They with us. That means you really helping us win. So we appreciate what you're doing. So that's what a lot of people got to keep in mind.
Exactly. So, Brother Ali, there were, again, you know, going back to Greg Carr's testimony that he gave in Washington, D.C. As a matter of fact, I might pull some of them tweets up so we can break them down. Why do you outside of the some people are saying that he might be a descendant of black immigrants. Why do you think there is a push? Like, because we have our discussions, and I know how I feel about it, but can you tell everybody how you feel about why people like Greg Carr are being intellectually dishonest? Because he said on one hand, and I'm going to show that race-based, if he had to choose between race-based and lineage-based, he would choose lineage-based. Now he's fighting hard for race-based. Why do you think they're doing that?
Well, I think you touched on it in terms of what his ancestry could possibly be. That's one of the things that we've noticed for a long time, is that a lot of these organizations that people like he is aligned with, whether he's a member of NARC and Cobra or any of those organizations or not, I don't know. But from them to the NAACP, to the Urban League, to the Nation of Islam, to the Moorish Science Temple of America, what has happened over time is those organizations have been heavily infiltrated, if you will, by foreign blacks. And not necessarily saying it's a bad thing on the surface, but as you start dealing with this matter of reparations based on coming up from slavery in the United States, it becomes a problem when you start trying to make the distinction between the heirs of these emancipated persons who were given certain protections and guaranteed certain things and with certain commitments made to them as the heirs and the beneficiaries. And
yeah, Ali, you cut out, bro. Josh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Ali, you cut out, bro.
how about now? Can you hear me?
There you go.
You good?
Yeah, I was just saying that the distinction that we're trying to make is what's causing the problem, because a lot of these people either are immigrants or have gotten hooked up with immigrants and relationships and stuff like that. I know a lot of people like that personally. There's people in my family like that who have, gotten hooked up with foreign black folks, and they pretty much become part of the family, and you know what I'm saying. And so I think there's a lot of delicate issues at play when it comes to that, and people not wanting to offend other people that they've created these relationships with and bonds with and all of that through these organizations or through having families and kids with them and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a weird situation, a weird place that we're in, and I think that plays a big part in why a lot of this stuff is happening the way that it is.
And you know what? I'm going to play this video real quick, because I had just shared this like not too long before I went live. And this was Brother Prime. Shout out to our Brother Prime, New York City Freedmen on deck. But peep this real quick, y'all.
I had this conversation with a good friend of mine, and and through the conversation, I don't want to get deeper too, but through the conversation, I had a realization that I am not a part of the culture. I'm a observer of the culture and a sort of sometimes a participator in the culture.
And when you first hear that, isn't that hard to hear?
It's hard to hear.
It's hard to hear.
It's very hard to hear.
Because that's not what you thought it was.
Right.
You felt like you were in there.
No, hearing this right now is like.
But when you call a spade, nigga, my culture is Copa and Guyat. No matter how much I love rap.
Hurt me, bro.
No matter how much I love rap, my culture isn't cornbread and ham hocks.
Right.
Even though I fuck with it,
But
I'm a sauce wine nigga.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You was born in Haiti or you was born
I'm
here?
born
No,
here.
we're born here.
Yeah.
But the culture and the
is-
foundation of what they stand on has already been laid before we got here,
Yeah.
right? So when we come here, we getting the Jordans and we getting the thing, we watching Fresh Prince, and that's us observing the culture.
Yeah.
and then mimicking the culture to a certain degree.
Right.
We're
And
not
because-
of the
And because
culture.
we look like
But
them, and
even
because
though
they
we
invite
was
us in, it
born
feel like
here,
home.
Yeah, even though, bro, this conversation fucked me up, Chris.
So just the camelback off of what Ali was just saying, right? That was a perfect segue, and it made me, as he was talking, it made me think about that video. We see that this discussion is happening, and like Dude said, it kind of messed him up. It's like the Haitian sister that I know. She was like, she was upset with me because I was saying that Haitians can't be included in our reparations. I had to like really break that down to her for her to understand what we're saying, right? It's like y'all have CARICOM. If I move to Haiti right now and CARICOM sued the crown for reparations for the generations of harms, I'm not supposed to get the reparations that the Haitians, I don't care if I was even born there. I'm not supposed to get the reparations that the Haitians whose claim dates back generations is supposed to get. I'm not.
Right.
And after that, she understood. She understood.
But you see how the brother was saying that hurt me. He was like, yo, I was hurt. I was hurt because they've been submerged in what is our culture, right? But even though it's not their culture, like the other brother was admitting, it's not our culture. We're just participating in it, or we are observing it on some degree. But it's not ours because the foundation of it had already been laid before we were born, before our parents came here. Whatever the case is, it's already been laid. It's their culture, and we're just kind of here observing or participating in it or enjoying it, right? But it's not ours. You can't say it's ours because we have a whole other cultural lineage that has nothing to do with that. And so I do believe that a big part of it is about people's feelings. And like I was saying, like it's, people have kids with immigrants now, especially living in a place like New York City. It's very easy for that to happen. Very easy for a Black American to get hooked up with a Jamaican or a Trinidadian or a Puerto Rican or whatever the case is. That happened a lot in New York City. So it's tough, right? It's a tough conversation to have because you got mixed children. Then you got people who are in relationships with other people. You got people who have built up camaraderie with, other people from other places and stuff like that. And they got these organizations together. And it's really tough. And like the young brother was saying, when it was being explained to me and broken down to me, it shit really hurt my feeling. Like I was really hurt. I believe that he was. I believe that he was because I think a part of it is the illusion that creates the delusion, and breaking that, right? It's like waking somebody up from a beautiful dream. You know what I'm saying? You're having a beautiful dream and somebody harshly wakes you up and that harsh reality sits in,
So counting that money or doing something else in the dream. Somebody is like, yo, man, I was having
that person that you always fantasized about, and it's like we were actually in this relationship, and we had this whole life going, and 7 a.m. came or 6:30 came, and boom, I had the alarm went off, or somebody, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, it was all a dream. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right. Just before we move forward, Father's Day was also this weekend too. I want to give a happy Father's Day to all of the fathers. Let me tell y'all the weirdest story real quick. I got my days all mixed up. I've been doing so much with trying to get everything moving with our organization and just life happening, because life is going to happen. Life is going to life always. And in that, for whatever reason, I thought Thursday was Friday. I don't know why. I thought Friday was Saturday, and I thought Saturday was Sunday. When I tell y'all I cooked the whole meal on Sunday because my children are here. So I went in. I went in. But it was Saturday. And the whole day went by. I'm like, yo, not nobody hit me up and told me Happy Father's Day yet. And then I was like, but you ain't hit nobody up and say Happy Father's Day either. And then I'm like, man, but still, I'm usually always the first one hitting everybody up saying Happy Father's Day. So the day goes by. I'm on a Twitter space. I think that may have been Sister Buffalo's Twitter space. We was on that space for a few hours. I think it was. I can't remember. Or it was our Twitter space. Yeah, I think that was our Twitter space on Saturday. Somebody sent me a Happy Father's Day message through Facebook Messenger at like 1 something in the morning. I'm like, wow. Somebody sent me a Happy Father's Day message at 1 something in the morning. Then I scrolled down and checked my notifications, and it said Sunday, June 19th. I said, oh, yo, that was the weirdest past couple of days for me, y'all. I literally got the days confused. And we know that happens sometimes. But to carry it over day after day after day, I was pressing the team on certain things we was working on. I'm like, yo, I got to get that. I want to get to make sure we get this. I want to make sure we get that because I want to do this tomorrow. I want to do this. I'm like, man, I'm bugging. My daughter said I'm getting old. So that's probably what it is. Peace, Sister Roz, Sister Fate XX is in the building. Shout out to everybody that I did not get a chance to shout out so far. Jonathan Bryant, the Freedmen, is on deck. What's going on, fam? Yeah, man, that was just a crazy story. So just shout out to all the fathers. Yeah, man, let's continue this conversation. I want to pull up my challenge to Carr. Matter of fact, I'll share this too. If anybody got anything to add, just go in. I'm just looking for that video. But this is one of the reparations checks, a actual photo of a physical copy of the reparations checks that the Japanese Americans received in 1989, from the Civil Liberties Act. But the date on that looks like it says 1989. Hell no, it looks like it says 1990. Now that I'm looking at it closer, it looks like it says October 16, 1990. And this is from Don Tamaki's mother, Ayo Tamaki. And Don Tamaki, if I'm not mistaken, sits on the reparations task force in California. And I thought that was, crazy. You could see it kind of not viral, but it went.
That might be 96, actually.
96.
It took a while for them to actually get paid out.
It's hard to see. Those numbers are so jumbled up right there. I thought it said 88 at first, and then I thought it said 89. But now that I'm looking at it from the actual computer, it looks like 1990. But you could be right. I don't know if that's a 6 though, because I could see that 6 on that 16. It doesn't look like the same thing, but hell, you never know. It could be. It could be. But yeah, fam, we okay, this is let's play Greg Carr. Let's play Greg Carr. Shout out to Sister Buffalo for getting this to me. Let's hear what Greg Carr said at the reparations. What's going on? At the California Reparations Task Force. Why?
Less than 2 sentences. So I'll start with the.
I don't know why this thing is doing this. This is so weird.
What? 70 census.
It's as if my Twitter just started acting up, and for whatever reason.
If you could impart your advice, would you impart the advice of a pure lineage standard or race-based? It could be just less.
Now here's Sister Camila asking, what would your advice be for pure race-based standard or lineage-based standard?
70 census.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seems like it's breaking up.
That if the only two options are race and lineage probably makes, as we know, the most sense. Race would not survive a legal challenge. I'm not sure that lineage will either, particularly given, how we define the harm. And that's why I would say finally that I think my comments, which are probably beyond the scope of this particular hearing, which is why I urge this committee to continue in some form beyond its mandate, if that's possible, would be to really try to rethink this notion of the class that is harmed. If there's possibly getting a membership in a harm category as defined globally as Black people with local policy recommendations shaped to the policies that we find ourselves in, I think ultimately that's where the future of reparations lies, because nothing has been achieved by Black people in this country without external pressure. So
Thank
I
you.
think
Oh
that's very
my
different.
God.
But
What?
yeah, I would say Lenny is probably the one, as you know.
You know, you just tell yourself a lie and you stick to it. That's Greg
Yo,
Carr.
external pressure.
External pressure. Who's
So
putting pressure on the United States of America?
who? Especially in 1865. Let's say 1865. What was the external pressure to pass the 13th Amendment? Who, where, when, what,
That's right.
how? Like, come on, man. I mean, like you said, man, these people lie to themselves and they just keep it going. Go ahead.
That's right. That's right. This is the actual challenge that
It's
I
your
put
brother
out.
Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, aka Mr. Just the Facts. I want to issue a formal challenge to Greg Carr on race-based reparations, or if reparations should be confined to those who've experienced the harm, meaning our lineages.
Twitter acting up on us. Anyway,
our families in this country who can trace themselves back to emancipated persons who had to endure the institution of slavery in this country, not Africans that just got off a plane last week. I have no formal college education.
all right, we can stop it right there, man. But I'll put the challenge out.
I am an autodidact. I
All right,
am
matter of fact,
self-taught. So, I mean, Greg Carr should easily, right, defeat me in the debate. He and his buddy Roland Martin are always calling for the smoke. But when the smoke appeared like 2 years ago when they called for it, and we did a video dissecting the Asian hate crime bill, oh, they went silent. Well, we want to offer Greg Carr the opportunity to come have this debate. Don't run from it. If what you're saying is true, that reparations should be based on one's race and not on one's lineage, right? Because America, they only gave reparations to Japanese Americans that were harmed by this country during World War II. Well, they didn't give reparations to all Asians that were over here. That means that reparations is a harms-based thing based on the families.
All right, I'm just going to stop sharing right there. Y'all get the point. I put the challenge out to Greg Carr. You know, like, yo, what's up? Who won the battle? And my DOS Effects voice, basically. So let's break this down, Ali. Let's break this down, because I want people to understand what we're talking about when we say lineage, right? So, our brother Iron Physique, shout out to the Freedmen of Los Angeles, man, and the California Freedmen in general. Brother Iron Physique says lineage is not a social construct like race. Lineage rides over race constitutionally. Now, this lineage thing, depending on how it's used, can be a double-edged sword. Brother Ali, let's break that down, bro.
All right, cool.
A shout out to Sister Roz for the contribution to the platform. Honor, sis.
Honors, Roz. What up, sis? So yes, lineage. I think one of the things, let me know if you can still hear me, okay?
Oh yeah.
One of the things that we've been warning people against for a while, and just in conversations with our dear sister Camilla, is something that we've talked about as well. One of the things we've been warning people about is the usage of this term lineage, that you have to be very careful with the application of the term, because the term lineage is also deemed synonymous with race. So you got to be very, very clear about what you mean by lineage when you use that particular terminology. I think for maybe at least the last year, at the very least, maybe long, we've been saying that about the usage of this term lineage. You got to be careful with that, and you got to be very specific about what you mean when you're saying it, because it can be construed based on its synonym, it being a synonym with race. It can be construed to mean race, and in many instances, like for instance, let's deal with Mel, right? Not Mel, Booby, the way he was speaking last night, because he's in denial about the fact that black is a racial classification. What he's trying to do is use black as a lineage that connects you to the reparations claim. This is what I'm saying. So if you're not careful about how you're using this, regardless of how you personally feel about black, what you can do is put yourself in the trick bag of having your words be construed to mean you want race-based legislation and reparations to happen because you want reparations for Black Americans. Black is the race, American is the nationality. So you're saying black people of the black race who are by nationality American citizens. That's what you're saying. And so what he actually is doing, people like him, people like Dion, because they're in denial about what black is, they're actually using lineage in a racial way. They're not using it in the way of family, the way that they pretend to be doing. That's why, remember when we would say we have multiple lineages. Now by saying we have multiple lineages, we're taking it away from race because we don't have multiple races. We have multiple lineages or multiple lines of ancestry that connects us to the emancipated and thus the enslaved people in this country. And I said, every line of your ancestry has a name, right? And the four immediate names of your ancestry are going to come by way of your four grandparents. And I always said, people know this because they heard us saying it. I said, the names of my lineages is Anderson, Bradley, Harrison, and Thomas. Those are the four immediate names of the lineages that connect me to the emancipated or thus enslaved people prior to that. If you don't approach it from that perspective, if you approach it from the perspective of, no, my lineage is Black American, what you're doing based on your denial and refusal to accept the fact that Black is a racial class, you're now using lineage in the way that they would love for you to use it, which is in a racial way, so that they can say, see, lineage is just a proxy for race. And so therefore, because of the doctrine of strict scrutiny and the fact that race-based legislation violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, we're going to strike this down as being unconstitutional. And for Greg Carr, who's talking about there is no permanent legal underpinning for the construction of this particular, the construction of the law to be that race-based legislation is unconstitutional, it's coming from the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So you can't say that there's no permanent legal underpinning when they're going to always rely on the Equal Protection Clause, a violation thereof from the 14th Amendment. You can say what you want. A lot of people are saying a lot of things on social media, but they have yet to flex the political muscle to actually make it real what they're saying. They're just saying stuff. But that's what I got to say for it, bro.
Exactly. And what I have up on the screen is taken directly out of Black's Law's Dictionary, 5th edition, and it's giving the definition for lineage, right? And the first word is race. That's why Brother Ali said what he just said about being very careful and how we utilize the word. And we know that that's not what our brother Iron Physique means. We know that, right? So, but we want to also make it clear, because we hear people that saying the lineage, but
The lineage.
the
Lineage.
That's
Implying
right.
that there's one.
That's
And what
right.
we know that there's one of is the black race. We know there's only one black race. You see what I'm saying?
And it says this right here, family. You're looking at it. This isn't something that we're making up. That's why Greg Carr, he's a slick, sly devil. He speaks with forked tongue. During that DC hearing the other day, he threw that in there. He said, because lineage is a proxy for race. Well, lineages is not a proxy for race, because when you say lineages, then you start to create a distinction. And it gets into the other part of this definition: progeny, family, ascending or descending, line of descent from an ancestor, hence family, race, stock, see also descent. You see what I'm saying, family? So again, we know what Brother Iron Physique means, but this is for everybody else that do not understand what we mean. When we tell people to be very, very careful when they're using this term lineage, because it is in fact and can be used by law as a proxy for race. We got to be clear on that, family, as we're moving forward. I'm getting to the point where I don't even like saying lineage-based reparations. It's just a part of the vernacular right now. So when I'm challenging Greg Carr, I want him to understand that this is what we're going to debate. But in that, if he's not going to take the debate, but I would explain to him what we mean when we say lineage.
The better word, if people were really clear, if people really understood the nuances of the use of words and the construction and the splitting of hairs that takes place when you're actually dealing with legislative intent and words and phrases as they're put into these particular pieces of legislation. They would have used the word ancestry if they were really a little bit more aware. They would have just because ancestry then puts it in this proper perspective without having to try to now go back and contextualize something that you misused in the first place.
Exactly. And my brother Iron Physique said lineage connects American freedmen, not the black race, to the 13th Amendment. But I put in the chat, right, just to stay on with what we're saying, our lineages connects American, I meant to say American freedmen to the 13th Amendment. That would be a more precise way to state it, right? And that's all we're trying to do. We are trying to make sure, because if we are at the Supreme Court right now and we are battling with these right-wing lawyers and they go into the law dictionary and we have not defined, these terms I've read something and it threw me off. If we haven't defined the terms that we're speaking of when we say, that's why you hear us just simply use the term freedmen families a lot over here, right? Because the lawyers on the right, they are going to say, well, lineage is a proxy for race. And they will read from the law dictionary. According to Black's Law Dictionary, it reads lineage, race, progeny, family, ascending or descending, line of descent from an ancestor, hence family, race, stock, right? So, yeah, Jabbar, ancestral heritage is good as well. I don't think ancestor would trigger a proxy for race debate or discussion, So definitely We can use the term ancestral heritage. The United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is an ancestral heritage lineage organization. It's based on the lineages of our families. And if you would like to join, our membership is open. Go to usadof.org. We were supposed to have a meeting this past Saturday, but I forgot that it was Juneteenth. I am in space right now where time seems to not exist. I've been so busy trying to get stuff together for our organization. You know, our shout out to our whole board of directors. You know, we've been really, really putting in work, and I've just been so focused on that the days and the times have been a blur, have just been a blur. So, but go to the website, usadof.org, so that you can join and become a member. We're going to be setting up chapters wherever those whom desire to have them want them. When we're going to have a meeting, we're definitely going to have a meeting one day this weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. Just be out on the lookout for that. So, okay, no doubt, Jabir, you. No doubt. Okay, cool. Yeah, Ali. So I'm glad that came up because it gave us the opportunity to make sure that we are putting, you know, it's not necessarily the wrong language. It's just how we're using the language, because we see race as the first thing that lineage defines in this law dictionary. And then it gives you that semicolon, letting it be known that, right, it stops there. And then it goes into progeny. And then it gives you what it means by progeny, family, ascending or descending. And then it closes off that particular sentence, right? And then it gets into the line of descent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, fam, we just want to make sure the fam is getting it right. That's it.
I just made a tweet just now as you were speaking. I said to all true reparationists, I'd start to employ the use of the word ancestry as opposed to lineage. Me personally, I would do that. Start moving away from the use of this term, because it can be construed. Just look at what is already in the law dictionaries. It's already there. Like it can be easily done, especially if you're not being specific about it, meaning your particular families, right? And meaning and using it in a plural sense. I was just thinking about the time that Bill Clinton got impeached, and when he had to testify, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think he testified. One of the things that they were doing was splitting hairs over certain words. Like for those who remember, there was, I think, an issue with a specific word, and they split the hairs over that word in the context in which the word can be used in the proceedings. Like they really went through that. And I'm saying that, you have to understand who you're dealing with and what you're dealing with. And when it comes to judicial proceedings, where words have multiple meanings and can be construed in various different ways, you have to really be mindful of the fact that, look, we got to be very careful with how we're saying what we're saying.
Exactly.
Got to be careful with it. So, but that's all I wanted to say, bro. I just made the tweet. If I was y'all, I would start using ancestry instead of lineage.
Back channel chat. Josh just typed something. And I kind of thought of that as well. But I don't want to discuss it on air. But just check the private chat on I don't know if he put it in the Facebook group, but it's on the StreamYard. But yeah, that's right, Roz. My man Bill Clinton said, well, it depends on what is, or something like that. Hey, if you lying and trying to get out some stuff, the way he did that, boy, I'll tell you. Let me see. Mulatto was dropped and our ancestors were reclassified as black. It was about this. That's right, Iron Physique. That's right. Oh man, what did I want to pull up? So let's be in that we're on that topic. Let's pull up. Let's pull this article up because I want people to know. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I want people to understand what we're talking about in a little more context. I don't know. My PC is acting slow. I had a brand new PC. It shouldn't be acting slow, but it is for whatever reason. So, okay, this is from. Let's blow this up. Let's blow this up. All right, let me see. Where do I want to go? Okay, let's start from here. Okay, let's go to the title, of course. The hard question of affirmative action in slavery. This article was published last month by, this is World News Era, but this story was covered by several different agencies. And I want to get, let me see. All right, you know what? I'll just read it. During oral arguments for the bigger Supreme Court cases, the justices' questions are often pointed, meant to advance their own views of the case or their own view of the case. Conservative justices ask friendly questions of lawyers on the conservative side and burrow into the logical weaknesses of the liberal side. Liberal justices do the opposite. So basically, they're saying that the court, which is supposed to be neutral arbiters, are divided along political lines. And we know that. But this case and the recent case with the Alabama gerrymandering voting rights case seems like it's kind of getting back to what it's supposed to be. Seems that way. Not just that. Even the Indian Child Welfare Act case. And I might actually touch on that either later or tomorrow. I don't know. But anyway, it says the 5-hour oral arguments. Man, I forgot to send the links out to certain people. My bad, y'all. Hold on. All right. It says the 5 hours of oral arguments on 2 affirmative action cases in October mostly fit this pattern. But about 3 hours into the session, Justice Brett Kavanaugh asked a less typical question. It involved slavery, and it raised an inconvenient issue for Kavanaugh's fellow conservatives. Quote, a benefit to descendants of slaves would not be race-based, correct? Kavanaugh said to Cameron Norris, a lawyer arguing for the end of race-based affirmative action. Norris seemed caught off guard. Quote, I think that's incorrect, Justice Kavanaugh, he said. Kavanaugh then noted that Norris had already acknowledged that the post-Civil War benefits that formerly enslaved people received from the federal government were not race-based. Those benefits were based on their status as having been enslaved, not their skin color. We've been saying this since we resurrected the term, family. We've been saying this since we resurrected the term. Let me read that line again. Kavanaugh then noted that Norris had already acknowledged that the post-Civil War benefits that formerly enslaved people received from the federal government were not race-based. We actually covered that here on BTP as well. Those benefits were based on their status as having been enslaved, not their skin color. Quote, if that's correct, then the benefit for descendants of former slaves is also not race-based, Kavanaugh said. Quote, you can make other arguments if you want about that, but it does not seem to be race-based. The conversation quickly moved on, partly because Justice Neil Gorsuch, another conservative, moved it along. But the exchange highlighted tensions that's likely to be central to the debate over affirmative action after the Supreme Court rules. Put simply, getting rid of race-based admissions policies may turn out to be harder than it sounds. Ali, that there's so many things happening in the Supreme Court with our understanding of race-based versus status-based, right? Because I believe that's the best and proper way to say it, right? I seen what Josh said about ancestry and its relation to lineage. My personal thing, and I said this on the phone with Brother Divine about maybe a week and a half ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, that it wasn't, what happened to us wasn't based on our race, right? It was based on our status. Now, oh, Ali got bumped off. Hold on, y'all.
My bad.
No, it's definitely. Now, let me see. All right, I see the back channel discussion. I don't know if you was able to hear what I was saying, but I was speaking about, as like for me, and this is what I told Brother Divine, that it should be a status-based claim as opposed to race-based. And I gave examples. Muhammad Ali, and I'll actually probably play that clip in a few minutes, where he said he went into the Louisville restaurant and some Africans had walked in before him that was so dark that they were blue and they were dressed in their African clothes. And the restaurant served them. And when he went to order, they told him, we don't serve Negroes. And how the Justice Department, as was highlighted in this book, Mau Mau from Harlem, we actually found it. Brother Divine found it while we was on the phone. Brother Ali found the clearer copy of that particular page. The State Department, in the 60s were considering giving these Africans lapel pins to wear so that they would be distinguished from Black people in America, distinguished from the freedmen, and not face the same discrimination. See, this is where Greg Carr will get utterly destroyed at in a debate. If he ever takes the debate, destroy him. This whole thing is absolutely not based on race. It is based on the status of the freedmen. And so what Kavanaugh says is that if that's correct, then the benefits for descendants of former slaves is not race-based. Why? Because it was based on their status, not their skin color. So what is your take on that and what I just said about the status element? Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Now do this right before I answer that, because I want to connect what I just put in the back channel to what you're saying. Pull up the legal definition of ancestry from the Cornell website. I put the link in there. I want you to pull that up and let's look at it real quick, and then I'm gonna use that to go into the answer about what you just asking regarding status, you know.
It's so funny. These usually are back channel discussions we have. Y'all getting to witness how we do this live and direct before we get our finished product that we put out into the public. This is exactly what we do, because we might have a little disagreement about something and we'll have a discussion about it. And y'all are witnessing some of our process and what proper methodology looks like. So go ahead, Brother Ali.
So if you could just read it for me, because I
got you. All right. It says ancestor. An ancestor is a predecessor in the family. In a legal sense, especially in the law of inheritance, any person whose estate is inherited by legal act or descent is an ancestor. The term ancestor applies only to natural persons. Well, predecessors and successors can also apply to legal entities such as corporations. So just predecessors and successors, it's saying, can also apply, but ancestor only applies to natural persons.
So ahead, okay, so now when we talk about status, right, we're talking about the status of the people who were emancipated from slavery. That ancestry piece connects us to those people who possess that status, which we then inherit by way of the perpetual badges and incidents of slavery. We inherit this, and not only do we inherit that, but we are also the heirs or beneficiaries to whatever it is that they were due by way of justice based on the commitments and the promises made to them through the Freedmen's Bureau Acts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you look at ancestor or ancestry from the legal perspective, it makes a whole lot more sense to use words like ancestry and heirs and stuff like that, which people have been hearing us say, as opposed to using the term lineage, which when you bring that up, the first word that comes, the first word that comes up with lineage is the word race, right? As we saw from the legal perspective. So you notice that ancestry doesn't have that word in there like that.
That's right.
Doesn't have that word in there like that, but it also has legal implications with regard to inheritance. So that's that. I'm just saying, for me, it's a matter of being very careful and very choice with specific words that I would intend to use, because I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to paint a picture. And that's what it is that people have to look at this as, is that we're dealing with being artistic with what we're saying and what we're doing. We're trying to be artistic and on a certain level. That's why I go back to King when he said the creative minority. This is about being creative and being artistic, and you have to think like that when you're dealing with this stuff, even going into courts, right? Because you know that they talk about words of art and different things of that nature, because we know that these things is about construction. Construction is art. Construction is art. It's being artistic.
That's right. Construction paper. Draw your ideas as you please.
You got to paint the picture for these people, right? And the words that you're using help to paint the picture. So yes, your ancestry, which connects you to this status that was given specifically to your people within your ancestral line, your ancestral bloodlines. It's not given to Jamaicans or other Caribbeans or Africans who are now coming here. They're not of that ancestry. You could use lineage, but we already showed you what happens with the word lineage in terms of its synonymous usage with race, where they can then turn around and say you're invoking race if you're not being specific about what you mean by lineage. Ancestry is a lot more clear, because ancestry is not necessarily connected to race the way that lineage obviously is.
Indeed, indeed. Powerful, powerful. Brother Josh, I don't know. Are you ready to jump in, Josh?
Oh, I'm trying to move downstairs, but yeah, no, I just wanted to piggyback off what Ali was saying, because that's what they were saying. When you read the transcripts of that Supreme Court case, the guy says, I can't remember his name, the attorney, but he's saying that when Kavanaugh pushes back on him, he said, well, I think that would still violate the ancestral standard as well. But he doesn't go into that. He doesn't he says something like it may go against what the court's precedent and ancestry as well, something like that he said. But he didn't go into it, probably because he didn't know how to go into it. He was just throwing something against the wall, knowing that nobody will know this is uncharted territory and people aren't really well versed enough to even get into that without preparing. And so but when you look up ancestry and how it's used in discrimination protection, that's why I put that link in there. It's primarily, I had it up here. Where did it go? It says ancestry discrimination occurs when an applicant, employee, or student is treated adversely because of their country, nation, tribe, or other identifiable group of people from which a person descends. It can also refer to a common physical, cultural, linguistic characteristics of an individual's ancestors. Or it says an example is like an employee was otherwise qualified but repeatedly passed over for a promotion or denied certain shifts and duties based on where their family comes from. So that wouldn't be the same as what we're talking about here. You know, when we're talking about our ancestry in terms of the lines of family going back, and I don't think they could make a case that this is a violation in ancestry discrimination, because we're not talking about any generalized groups. They will be trying to put that in the same boat as race. Well, we're not doing that. We're talking about specific lines of people that come from a family that's receiving redress for their harms. That's not talking about the same thing, in my opinion. You know, maybe they can construe it to say something else.
Yo, my man Jabir, you said if it's one thing I know about the judicial system is words matter. They literally tell you that in your Miranda rights, right? You got the right to remain silent. Any word you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Oh, man, that is a fact. All right, we got a question from Shabazz, American Freedmen. Were Negroes and Africans considered different races? Is it still true today? No.
Man, I love to see that Shabazz, American Freedmen. We know what's behind that right there. So I love to see that.
Right.
And let me give them the example that I gave last night about the Dred Scott case. In the Dred Scott case, our families were referred to by 4 different racial names. One was the African race, the other was the Black race, the next was the colored race, and the last was the Negro race. All 4 of those racial names applied to the same group of families in the United States who we identify as the American freedmen families at this point. Or some people would say African Americans or Black Americans or whatever you want to say. But it's all applying to the same group of people. When you read the Dred Scott case, you'll see that all 4 names, African race, Black race, colored race, and Negro race, all refer to the same people.
And I want to just, like me, I try to harp on the status of it. And that question made me think about that, right? And I want to read what Charles Sumner said from in their, matter of fact, this is from our website, usadof.org. If you have not read our letter to the Supreme Court, I just looked at the statistics of our articles the other day. And the article that we wrote on reparations was for, the longest, the most read article on that website. And I looked the other day and this one had surpassed it. I was like, whoa, this our letter to the Supreme Court. And we just put this up a few months ago. So I'll just put that link in the chat. But I want to read this. It says, the purpose of establishing the Freedmen's Bureau for newly emancipated persons was to protect the formerly enslaved from macula servitutis. That's a Roman word that means the stain of slavery. Making the case for establishing the Freedmen's Bureau, Charles Sumner, former Massachusetts senator, citing the Commission of Freedmen, later called the American Freedmen Inquiries Commission, in his report quoted, "We need a Freedmen's Bureau not because these people are Negroes, but because they are men who have been for generations despoiled their rights." Sumner also laid out intent of the proposed Bureau and what he called main features. And this is what Sumner said. He says, it provides exclusively for freedmen, meaning thereby such persons as were once slaves, right? He's defining what a freedman is. And Ali always points that out. Ali always says they're saying freedmen if you know what to look for in a lot of the early legislation, etc. So let me read that again. It says it provides exclusively for freedmen, meaning thereby, quote, such persons as were once slaves, without undertaking to embrace persons generally of African descent. So it's clear that what's being referenced here is the status of our people. And they even in those times understood that, yes, the Negro in America is no different than the Negro in Africa, insofar as they are racially defined by their phenotypes, et cetera, et cetera. But what this is different, right? And I want to bring the brother Shabazz American Freedmen to the core of what we feel is important in this conversation, and that is highlighting the status of our particular group in this country, that our ancestors, our families who endured the legacy of slavery, our ancestors that endured the legacy of slavery, and our families that endured the subsequent atrocities and horrors and social terrors, domestic terrorism, economic exclusion, social. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that I could say. There's so many superlatives that I could use that I'm kind of coming up with blanks on trying to say them all. But that's the important question. That's the important question, right? Because Negro ultimately is someone that derives from Africa. So it's not that they are not seen as anything separate. But in this discussion, I think it's important for us to focus on the status of our people in this country so that we are moving ourselves away from the racial conversation in general. And this is why we tell people we're not interested in doing race work. And Ali gave a dope breakdown on a Twitter space yesterday where to sum up what he said, we don't say stuff like black reparations. That's a poison pill that's tainting the well. You're tainting the well when you say black reparations. Because if you're saying black reparations, then you are being inclusive of everybody that are defined under the black classification in Federal Directive 15.
And not only that, because people will argue, that they have the criterion for eligibility to kind of mitigate that, right? Nevertheless, what you're also doing, even bigger than the idea of including everybody of the African diaspora, bigger than that, what you're doing is you're using what they call the suspect classification that triggers this doctrine of strict scrutiny. Okay, and to me, that's the larger issue, is what it is that you're attempting to do with this already, like I said, uphill battle, right? By invoking race, what you're doing is adding extra degrees of incline to an already uphill battle. That's the real thing, right? For me, from my perspective, why would you do that knowing that you're actually putting a second obstacle or another obstacle in front of you to try to have to hurdle? Why? So I yeah, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. And I just want to add that I have something that is, I may have brought it up before. I don't think I brought it up before on live air, but is something that I think needs to be added. So if people, whether you're insistent or not on invoking these terms and suspect classifications, there's some element to this thing that has to be put in place that could allow some of that to survive. But I don't want to get into that. Anybody is listening that got the power to make stuff happen like that, get in touch with us and let's talk about that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, I'm just putting the definitions in the chat. I pulled up, the link on suspect classification.
Was you able to hear what I was saying? The whole thing? I know I got cut off.
You got cut off at some point. At what point? I cannot fully remember because I was pulling up the suspect classification links and link, rather.
I think people get the point at this stage of the game. I think they get the point that race is something, the invocation of race or things that act as a proxy for race are things that are going to trigger this quote unquote strict scrutiny thing, which then, puts you in the line of fire to have whatever it is that you're trying to do declared to be unconstitutional. Right. So the problem with that then is now if you get your stuff declared unconstitutional, you're going to have to go right back to the judiciary. I mean, not the judiciary, the legislature, to try to have them undo that in some form or fashion. It's a lot. It's a lot. To me, it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot, man. And it's like you're deliberately putting obstacles in your own way, in my opinion.
Well, your opinion aligns with what Chemerinsky said and what we've been saying on this platform for the longest. So, it's not, we could have an opinion on it, but what is the opinion rooted in? And it's not as if your opinion is something that you're just pulling out of a hat. It's based on studying this particular subject. What triggers strict scrutiny? Black reparations is going to trigger strict scrutiny. This is going to trigger strict scrutiny. If that's in any legislation, then that's what's going to happen. And let me say this, because I feel I got to at this point. There are people that don't want to rock with this Freedmen language. And I sat back and I watched. I watched a bunch of sucker stuff over the past couple months, man. I really, really have. But I've been watching since we've resurrected the term here at Be the Power and incorporated ourselves as a 501c3, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. And I watched certain individuals that never wanted to accept the term in the first place. And they watched as the term took off. It took off. And people began to understand until some realized that it might hurt their own political motives and stuff that they should have been listening to us from the beginning in the first place. But that's another story that we will get into one day. One day we gonna get into that. But anyway, when I watched that certain individuals fell back, I watched as people try to demonize the term freedman. They tried to demonize it. And people use that to say, you know what? Yeah, that's the perfect escape hatch right there, because there's a bunch of illiterate fools all over Twitter that's trying to demonize the term freedman. And then all of the hashtag, both follow and swallow, 1 and 2, 1.0 and 2.0, demonized it. And it has withstood all of the BS because it's historically rooted. It's historically rooted. And the arguments that we've put up, you can't defeat them. And so it ventures past the realm of opinion and into what is an actual fact. What would the law professor say? What would Erwin Chemerinsky say if he had a sit down, if you will, with Be the Power? And we had this discussion about status, reparations based on status, based on our ancestry in this country, or our lineages, right? If I'm being specific, in this country. I'm apt to believe that Erwin Chemerinsky would agree with us 100%. 100%. I don't believe that I don't believe, right? And I can give my opinion here because I don't know how that conversation would fully go. But based on the testimony that he's given, then I believe that he would agree with us. And we have a preponderance of evidence. We have the weight on our side. We just read from the Kavanaugh piece. Ketanji Brown Jackson was wrong when she said that these Freedmen acts during Reconstruction were race conscious. If you watch that movie Lincoln, there's a scene where what's his name? Josh Stevens. The legislator, the radical Republican. I can't think of his first name for nothing. I'm confusing the other guy from the Confederacy. But anyway, there's a scene.
Not Alexander Stevens.
Not Alexander.
Thaddeus
Stevens. Thank you. There's a scene in that movie Lincoln that's powerful, where Thaddeus Stevens understands his role as a legislator and what's going to pass as a law. And so he backtracks from the moral position that certain individuals wanted him to take. But he had to think, and he being one of our staunchest proponents for our freedom and the rights that we deserved as citizens in this country, knew that he could not just make this thing based on the moral thing that he felt about it, that he had to make it based on what was going to stand the test of time in the law. That was a powerful scene in that movie. And he hangs his head because the people, they kind of walk by him and they kind of chide him a little bit for doing what he did. But I understood it as soon as I seen it. So, well, he had to do that. That made sense. What is going to stand the test of time legally? That's what's important. And if we were having the conversation with Erwin Chemerinsky, I believe that he would agree with what we have to say across the board. And so, we don't necessarily know how to make that conversation happen, but it's one that needs to happen. And we have, like I said, we got Kavanaugh in the Supreme Court talking about the status of the people. He asked the question that tripped up that conservative lawyer. It tripped him up because he asked the right question, and Kavanaugh gave the right answer. Now, he was under the opinion that it wasn't based on their race, that it was based on their status, that they received those benefits. And guess what? Those people that want to use the institution word slavery in their organization's name, if it was true then, it is unequivocally the truth now, because truth don't change or pass away. It's just as simple as that. So those people that have a problem with the term freedmen, they also have a problem with us. It's like these guys, half of them come out the projects, man. How they doing it like this? But if we were to make the proposal to someone like Erwin Chemerinsky, what would you prefer we use in the legislation? Reparations for Black Americans or reparations for American freedmen? With the status of the freedmen undergirding the name American freedmen. I believe that Erwin Chemerinsky would, without doubt, say reparations for American freedmen. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. Bros, y'all got anything to share on that? Add to that?
Oh, yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. I would love to have the conversation with Chemerinsky about it. A lot of people want to ignore what he has to say. A lot of people want to ignore what he has to say. Like the brother in the Twitter space the other night was like, I don't care what Chemerinsky said, right? Well, listen, you could take that position. You can take that position, but at the end of the day, the man is dealing with the actual law and the laws as they have been construed. And so unless you got the kind of political muscle to change things, you got to deal with things as they are. And that's exactly what we've done. We have tried our best to deal with things as they are, not the way we would wish them to be, we would like them to be, right? We're dealing with the stuff as they are. That's it. And so people don't want to do that. They want to deal with these fantastic ideas that they've construed in their minds and on social media platforms. And they want to pretend that that's the way things are, but it's just not the truth. And I think they're setting themselves up for some very harsh realities to hit them very hard in the face. And for me, that again, that you talking about a waste of time like that, as if we have time to be wasting. I'm not of the,
Nah, go ahead, my bad.
I'm just one who is not of the mindset that we have a bunch of time to waste. That's all I was going to say, Josh.
Yeah, I want to say, it's amazing that people say that about the foremost, or one of the foremost constitutional scholars in the country, and legal minds on that subject, especially when there's not like a huge number of people that have taken the time to study and be able to have that type of conversation. But people say that until their life is on the line. You say you don't value a person like that as opinion until they're representing you, and it's either you have to lean on their opinion, or you're gonna go to prison for the rest of your life. Then you value somebody's opinion. You say that until you diagnosed with you debilitated with some late stage cancer, or you need some emergency surgery, but then you will value the professional opinion. You say that until your company is failing and you need somebody to help save it or something like that. You say that, what I'm saying? Like this, it's easy to say that because we don't feel like that person's opinion is it's not really close to our lives. It's not really doesn't matter because we're kind of detached in a way, and what their opinion doesn't really affect me because I don't whether we're right or wrong, it's not going to be a life or death thing for me. And okay, but the bottom line is when you're dealing with a subject matter expert and you are dependent on that information, you need the best information because when it comes time to put that to the test, yeah, your life is your legal life as far as in that moment. Whether you're going to get your behind handed to you or not, whether you're going to, get knocked out in the first round or you go 10, 5, 10, 12 rounds, or whatever the case may be, and you get a split decision or you get the knockout, that's going to be dependent on the skill and your ability to navigate that fight. And if you don't want to take the best advice, then you just get knocked out in the first round. It's like you look like Peter McNeely going against Mike Tyson.
Absolutely. And ultimately, Josh, and I think you're absolutely right. And ultimately, what this boils down to is the same issue that we have with our support of Gabriel Piemonte in his run for alderman and the ward that he was running in. What our people consistently have a problem with doing is playing skin complexion politics and playing skin complexion games. And they believe that by doing that, that's going to somehow be the saving grace for them, that they're going to somehow utilize this Black consciousness thing, and we're going to just override anything that anybody with pale skin has to say just by pointing out the fact that these people are pale skin and complexion. Man, if that was all it took, we would have been over the hump a long time ago. Long time ago. And that's what's going on with Erwin Chemerinsky. You get what you have are people like Greg Carr or people like these other ones who are trying to operate in denial. What they're trying to do is ignore what he's saying because of his skin complexion and because his name is Chemerinsky. You see what I'm saying? And you know as well as I do that that's a big part of what's going on. It's like they really would like to close their eyes. You know how the children do? See no evil, hear no, like that kind of thing. I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm just going to pretend like this man didn't say what he said. And I'm going to pretend like what he did say doesn't mean anything because he doesn't have the right complexion for it to matter to me in the first place. And that's what's going on too. Unfortunately, our people have not gone beyond that, as we saw demonstrated when it came down to Gabriel Piemonte's race in Chicago, and they ultimately wound up voting for a man who did have the skin complexion that they liked, but who then turned around and voted against their interests along with the other Democrats because he told the Democratic Party line. And that's the kind of politics that our people play.
They play those elite Afro type of games. And
get knocked out in the first round.
Get knocked out in the first round. Hey, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. Shout out to our sister Cynthia in the building. It is what it is, man. I mean, we're winding down, fam. It's so funny. All of our conversations come back to this. And I love it because it's the main part of the education. Somebody sent me a screenshot of Yvette Carnell going back and forth with Greg Carr. And I shared it on the screen, right? And I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull this up. Because, and I'll use the caption, they're listening to BTP.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what she's saying to him because I can't see it. She has me blocked. I mean, I there's obviously ways to see it, but I was not that interested. But whatever.
Yeah. I mean, she's basically having the debate with him about she told him this is what matters. It's the only thing that matters. And one of her stand pages, Non-Human Media, posted what we've been posting since the California Reparations Task Force. We got a whole video on our Freedmen University channel called Race-Based versus Lineage-Based Reparations. And even in that, we still gave the caveat of how we use the word lineage. Go back, check the date. This isn't something new that we're saying. It's not something new that we're saying. And, my caption was, see, they're listening to BTP. They have to. They see that because we are the ones that keep it in rotation. And they know deep down inside that ultimately this thing rests on American freedmen. And fighting us is futile. It's a futile fight. You're really just punching at the wind, because if you've chosen to disrespect the status that we fought for after slavery, I mean, during the time of slavery, to free our people from that abhorrent institution, well, then you ultimately side with Greg Carr in that you're going to push some, and Dion, right? And anybody that's going to push something that would trigger strict scrutiny, because you just can't use that term, because slavery, again, was an institution. And if you're saying freed slaves, you're saying freedmen. If you're saying descendants of slaves, what are you saying? You are saying freedmen. Josh made a great point the other day when we talked about the badges and incidents of slavery. Josh said the term freedman is a badge of freedom. If freedman is the badge of freedom, why do we still want to wear the badge of slavery. That's what they're using to beat us with. I mean, this stuff is simple. It's not rocket science. It does not really take a lot to understand it. It's simple. It's very, very simple. And most of us, we got it. We can look at it. We can see it. It takes some unwrangling, right? It's not just a easy thing to unravel. I wouldn't say that, but the understanding of it, the basic, simple understanding is easy, period. And Yvette Carnell, well, she got it right, because this has been the position of be the power for the longest. What Erwin Chemerinsky said. And this has been our position before we even came in this space. And that is as we say in New York, a Snapple fact. A Snapple fact. So, man, did y'all want to touch on anything else before we got up off here? That or anything before we start winding this thing down?
Yeah, my bad, man. I had it on mute. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It is an actual fact. You know, we came into the space with certain understandings. And over time, we started to inject those things into the consciousness of the family, you know, and people are not necessarily grounded in it the way that we are. So you have a lot of back and forth and a lot of people who are on the fence about a lot of things because they don't really quite connect the dots as of yet. A lot of dots have been connected, but then there are some dots that are still not connected for certain people. So, you know, you got people on the fence about certain things, and you got people who fall back from certain things and back up off of certain things because they really are not firmly rooted in the understanding of it, or are inspired and persuaded by other folks who have specific agendas that they're pushing. And, you know, they cling to those things and those people as authorities in it. My thing is this, there really is no authority on reparations for the American freedmen families. The reason I'm saying that is because it's never been done. It would be different if it was done before and somebody actually made it happen. Then you can look to them based on their experience of actually making it happen to say that this person is an authority. This person is an authority. But what we do have as American freedmen, and those of us who are freedmen conscious, is we have the preponderance of evidence on our side. That is something that the pushers of race-based policies and legislation don't have on their side. The only thing that you can pull up in terms of race-based policy or legislation are things like the Code Noir from Louisiana.
That was funny too.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Funny. With Brother Booby yesterday, that was funny, man. My bad, go ahead, bro.
But see, the point being the Code Noir, which is really French for black code, or the Negro laws of South Carolina, or the black codes of the Reconstruction, at the post-Reconstruction period. What the problem with those particular race-based laws that, you know, was that they had very negative impact on our families. And so if you're looking at it from this perspective, the last time we had race-based legislation, it was very negative. You had your Code Noirs, you had your Negro laws, and you had your black codes. Those are very, very negative things and very negative impacts on our families, right? So what we need to do, ultimately, when we decide to grow up, right? Because at a certain, like I said the other night, at a certain point, we're going to have to grow up. And I think we're at this point of reckoning, right? We're at this crossroads where people have a decision to make. Because I think this whole reparations conversation is forcing a lot of other things to the surface. And we do have a decision to make in terms of us maturing in terms of us becoming more politically sophisticated and politically savvy, is we have a decision to make. Are we going to continue to play this Europeans' colorized racial classification game, or are we going to become a more sophisticated and advanced political class of people who are going to operate based on the sciences, the real sciences of humanity that governments were built upon? Then what are we going to do? Like, you know, I like to point out that Federal Directive 15 talks about in their disclaimer, because they made a disclaimer there, and people may not realize that, but there's a disclaimer that we've been talking about for years, where it says that those classifications are not scientific or anthropological in nature. So what they're telling you is that these things ain't based on anything real. These are socially created fictions that were the product of the imagination of European social scientists, if you will, anthropologists and sociologists, etc., who were trying to build this hierarchical system based on this colorized racial classification game that they're playing. And because, like I was telling the guy last night, because we've been cut off from everything that we knew and held dear to us from an ancestral perspective, we cling to these names because those are the only things that we know. But my thing is, when higher information is coming to you, when you're getting superior knowledge and superior wisdom, when you're being given the light and you have the opportunity to come out of darkness into the light, why not choose the light? Why continue to do things the way that you've been doing it, knowing that they produce no results or negative results at best? Why continue to do that? So we do have to grow up. These are, in essence, coloring crayon games that people are playing with all of this colorized stuff. It's a kid's game. It's a kid's game. And the Europeans have you caught up in playing this kid game that they created. That's not necessarily the game that they play, but they play it with you to keep you on this this little merry-go-round thing that they got you playing with. It's childish. It's not rooted in science or anthropology. And it's definitely not, as they say in Federal Directive 15, anything that should be used as determinants for eligibility in any federal program. So why are we playing that game? Why play that game? Just doesn't make any sense to me, other than the fact that people are refusing to actually grow up.
Yeah, or self-sabotage. You know, like I said, if it's something that you know, they're telling you beforehand, they show you beforehand that it's automatically going to get you shut down. Why are you running to claim that? I love how you break it down. It's adding an extra incline to already uphill battle.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
Yo, imagine you trying to run up. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to run up Mount Everest, and then all of a sudden, the land just go to a 90-degree, straight line up. You know, like how, or even like back the other way to like a 85 or 75-degree angle. Like that's kind of what it is. It's like, yo, you running against gravity. It doesn't even make any sense. And I just want to, please, I hope y'all can still hear this, a lot of background noise. A helicopter decides. I go outside to get a little bit of quiet, and a helicopter decides to fly over my head.
We can hear you. It's cool.
All right. So, I was looking at a Facebook post earlier today, because it was somebody who posted about how they couldn't believe how many of our people never heard of Juneteenth. And, I'm not going to beat people up by not knowing, while we have an educational system that really never taught us about Juneteenth and growing up. It didn't teach us about a whole lot. So I'm not going to beat people up about that. Even though it's like a national holiday now. So, and it's been a couple years. So how do you not know? Anyway, I was noticing one brother's response on there. He was like, I don't really care. I'm actually mad. I'm mad that they made it a holiday anyway, because why can't I don't want to keep focusing on how our people were in slavery. Everything is about slavery and us being inferior and all of that. Can we just get back to some stories? I want to see some stories and images, and I want something about when we were glorious and in power and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, see, that's the problem right there. I got a different perspective. I don't look at Juneteenth as being just about slavery. And the fact is, our story is not about slavery inferiority, because the fact is, coming up out of slavery, to survive slavery, to come up out of slavery, to fight to end slavery, and to fight for civil rights and human rights in America, and to get it done, that's one of the most superior acts that anybody's ever seen in the entire world. To build the richest country in the world, what is inferior about that? So like, now my AC went on. Yeah, so like, my thing is, it's a lot of people that think like that, and that's why they want to go back and connect with Africa, because they somehow want to get away from the narratives that they think lead us down the path to an inferior class, social status or position. And they want to skip over everything that's dealing with their own personal family and our families and what we achieved as a new people over here in America, to go back to some fantasy land, romanticism of various, anonymous African empires that you got to understand, we're mostly slave-holding empires. There may be some of the same empires that are responsible for capturing or selling some of our people off over here. Imagine that. So I don't need to skip over Robert Small. I don't need to skip over Prince Philip. I don't need to skip over any of these freedmen patriots. We can go down all the way down the line, all the way up to present day. I don't need to skip over any of these people. I don't need to skip over my family members who fought in the Civil War, who fought in every war in this country, Revolutionary War. And I don't need, and who took abuses from all kind of devils over here to fight and to get the opportunities that we have today. And I will say opportunities. A lot of people look at our position about opportunity. Yeah, but I'm talking about the opportunity to not have to worry about being lynched, to not have to worry about being terrorism of clan violence. Now, we still have some of these fears. I'm not going to say it's out. I just want to acknowledge the people that have been fighting and progress that has been made from those people fighting. They have fruit of their labors. I don't need to skip over that. And I also don't need to put my head in the sand or close my eyes and just make believe that we're doing much better than we're doing today. When I don't need to just disregard the numbers, because I think a part of this is some type of escapism and some type of fantasy. And I think certain people are so resolved that we're finished, that you're almost a fatalist, And it's crazy that some people are following really fatalists. That some people say this is, how can you follow a fatalist into something where you have to be hopeful and you're trying to build a better life, and when this person wants to see all of it destroyed, I'll never forget one. Some people on here gonna know what I'm talking about, but it's one dude that has a real big afro, and he always talk about peanut butter sandwiches, and he does this kind of makes this kind of noise, and he wears a fez. And I'm not going to tell you the acronym, so I'll just tell you the name, 5-3 Break. No, so he used to. One day I asked him, I said, "Man, what is it that that we should be doing? Like, how can we improve our situations. Like, man, it don't matter. Just as long as you mess something up in the system, just mess the system up. That's basically what he was saying. I'm like, yeah, man, you don't care. People out here going to jail. You giving, like, you're a fatalist. You're not even trying to get to some end that's a worthy. There's no end to justify the means. There's no like vision for a better future for our people here. You just reserve that this thing is wicked, it's evil, you want it to burn, it's not worth, really like a fatalist and an anarchist. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. Like, we have children, we have lives, we're trying to improve our lives here. Our ancestors fought for a better position and better America for us to live in and improve our position here. We're not trying to just see this thing burn. Wow, we the first ones who get burnt up. People that want America to be destroyed don't understand that we're the first people that's going to be wiped out. Like, we're the first people that, because guess what? People don't care if we're getting wiped out right now. So why do you think they're going to care when it's resource constraints and we got to be wiped out? And we got to stop us from getting wiped out. They don't care. We're already people that's marginalized right now. So no, we have to fight for. We're still fighting for survival. We still really. That's what the reparations fight is. I think people think that it's optional. This thing is not optional. This thing is not optional. They said by 2053, the middle black family. They didn't say the middle freedman family. So we know that the immigrant class is coming over here largely has a superior economic position than us because of the selectivity of the people that's coming over here. So if anything, their numbers are propping our numbers up. So the middle freedman family might be 2050, it might be 2047 for the middle freedman family is going to have zero median wealth. We don't have the disaggregated data to even have the proper analysis. So if that's the case, we have to have reparations. So why are you fighting? Like, why are people playing around like this thing is optional? This thing is a fight for survival. So that's what I want to say. We need to have more of a sense of urgency, and we need to communicate the sense of urgency to the family around the nation, the American freedom families around the nation. Back to you, Brother Ryan.
Indeed. Excellently put, Brother Josh. I think people, you're right, man. I think people think this is just some ideological conversation piece. Like when we was in the Moorish movement and we was debating about the Moors in Egypt and all of that crazy stuff. This is not that. If you have children, you have to think about the America that your children are going to grow up in. And the projections show that it's not looking good for us. I was debating with these brothers from the Nation of Islam on Twitter, that brother Ben X. This guy said the craziest thing when I brought up the statistics about 2053. This dude said, I don't believe that. So guess what? Somebody wrote that. I can write something different. No, somebody crunched the numbers and they were able to they were able to create a mathematical projection based on earnings, based on who knows how many different factors to come up with this projection that by 2053, the middle black family, which is only worth $1,700 right now, when you remove things that depreciate, will be at $0.
That's like saying, brother, man, they ran the blood test, they ran the MRI, they ran this and ran that. And basically, if you don't get a new, kidney, or you don't get a new liver, you don't get a new whatever, then you gonna be finished.
That's right.
I don't believe that. That's just what somebody wrote. Okay.
That's right. I could put on my own 3D glasses like the one they give me at the movies, use those as X-ray glasses, see my own kidney, concentrate on it and heal it myself. Because that's exactly like, if you compare it, that's what that brother is saying. That he could just write something else and make that be the reality. And it just shows that those types of legacy organizations don't have any answers no more at all. They sustained us for a good minute with rhetoric, and we appreciate them for that. But right now, that's played out. That is played out, and the time for that type of rhetoric is over. It's over. So, fam, we are at the end of our live stream tonight. As you see up on the screen, we are pushing for our American Freedmen Education Tour. And our brother Restitution Radio, our New York City Freedmen fam, says that's what I told him and his peeps in the Twitter space as well. And that's a fact. It's just a fact. And they don't want to, it clashes with their religious beliefs. It's crazy, man. It's like that movie Signs. I was meant to get on Josh about this because we was debating back and forth about the Arizona alien crash. And I was going to tell Josh, you're going to be like Mel Gibson character in that movie Signs until you actually see the aliens and all of that stuff. You know, I believe in the aliens. I believe in the ships and what they call the baby planes and the mother wheel. I believe in that stuff. But I am not going to be out here preaching about that stuff because it creates this idleness that, just like Josh said earlier, if America starts to get destroyed, we're going to be the first ones to get burnt up. It's just as simple as that. We will. Not just, you know what I'm saying? The European here, he has his stuff already laid out. He's already prepared to survive any catastrophe, whether living beneath the earth or above the earth in their international space station. They share that thing with people, with countries that they are at war with. They have contributors from all over the world working on that thing. Come on, man. We have to get real about our situation. It's not a game. It's not a joke. And so we are going on a Freedmen lecture tour. That is our GoFundMe. I'm going to set it off. If you think that our message should be heard at college campuses and community centers across the country, support what we're doing. Support the tour, because the narcs and the cobras, they killing us right now, money-wise, and being able to spread their message, being able to spread their obstructionist message. We was looking at some stuff last night during one of our board meetings, and I'm not even going to put it out right now, because I'm going to talk to my people about it, if we're going to even discuss something that was a conflict of interest that we saw. That was crazy. I'm like, this is crazy that these people are like Agent Smith in the Matrix. They are trying to be everywhere that reparations is being discussed, funded, etc., etc. So, you know, we got to make sure that we get our message out there. So if you feel that our message is powerful enough, you could donate to our GoFundMe. I'll put the link in the chat. You can use the Be the Power Cash app. I'll put that link in there because we have to get our message out there, fam. I don't even know how I just did that. I pressed something wrong, but I'm glad it's up because that is a new little symbol that I'm working on. I ain't getting no feedback from it yet, so I don't think everybody like it. I actually like it. It just looks like a symbol of protection to me, and it's 4 F's interlocked that says family, fidelity, freedmen, and force. And like I said earlier, it's something that I'm experimenting with, and you know, I'm gonna probably be using that over the next couple, but hopefully I can get some consensus on it and see if I could get some tweaks made to it, etc., etc. But again, we are coming to the end of tonight's live stream. So if you haven't hit the like button and you are listening in, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to still share the video out. We have, these conversations are important, and we have to keep these conversations going because we have to win this fight. And it's going to take us, that creative minority, to win this fight. And it's just as simple as that. It's as simple as that. This American Freedmen thing is moving. Matter of fact, before we get up out of here, I will play a small piece of Sister Nikki Lucas. Let me see. And we changed our other channel to Freedmen University. So y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the Freedmen University channel as well. So I'm gonna play a little clip of that and then we'll get up out of here, family.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. American freedmen, those persons who have at least one ancestor that was enslaved in the United States of America, who was emancipated in 1863 by way of the Emancipation Proclamation, or 1865 by the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, and have been despoiled their rights as citizens due to the badges, incidents, and vestiges of slavery. It is crucial to include the study of lineage-based reparations as the determining factor for eligibility within the community. It is important to note that the current version of the bill does not align with the principles of reparations and raises constitutional concerns under sections of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Furthermore, the lack of support from prominent grassroots reparations organizations in New York, as well as the absence of public support, is evident and will further divide the community. Additionally, this bill does not properly address the intended recipients of the bill, which is the community of eligibility, specifically the American freedmen, descendants of persons enslaved in America.
That's what I'm talking about. Shout out to Brother Devine. Shout out to the U.S. Freedmen Project. Everybody that's involved in that fight in the city and state of New York. You hear this sister spitting that hot fire that comes directly from those brothers and sisters building with this sister. That's right, Sister Ross. Salute to the U.S. Freedmen Project. Man, fam, this thing is moving. It's moving all over the country, and people see it, and they're like, you know what? That makes sense. That makes sense. This movement is growing, and with your support, we can make it grow some more. We are trying to hit up colleges, universities, community centers all across this country. We are working. We are definitely working to make that a reality, because our enemies are not stopping. They are not sleeping. We are going to be establishing some Zoom meetings soon. We like to use Google Meets, but we're gonna be hosting some online events pretty soon. The team and I are talking about that. So y'all just be on the lookout for that, man. We are going to elevate our voices. We are going to get on our soapboxes and pull out our proverbial bullhorns and scream this thing to the top of our lungs so that all can hear exactly what we need to do moving forward. I leave you all with the motto of our platform, and that is, you already know, man, don't just fight the power. Don't just fight the power, become the power. Come here. Let them hear you say it. My daughter want to say the motto. Come on. Come over here and say it. The camera not on. You ain't got to worry about your head. Come on. The camera is not on. Come on. All right. Come on. Say it with me. Don't just fight the power. Become the power. And then you'll have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.
I love it.